Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. Universe Technology Group, Human Resources Department. Zian stated his request directly. His request was simple. It is to confirm that Ime Nebula will be classified as its own private territory in the Universal Federation of Humanity. This territory is divided into three types: public, power, and private. Public territory is an area directly under the jurisdiction of the Universal Human Federation. That is, the forces represented by the Pinnacle Group, the Elder Group, and the Parliamentarian Group of the Universal Human Federation, as well as the area jointly governed by the citizens. And this kind of area, it is generally the main gathering place for unorthodox human races belonging to the orthodox human race. The territory of influence is similar to Tianrui Xinghai, which belongs to the Universe Technology Group. Private territory, better understood. Private land is divided into several forms. One form is that you personally purchase this territory and have absolute autonomy. For example, the star system of the Ghana tribe is a completely private domain with absolute autonomy. There is another way, that is, you spend a certain amount of money to buy it and choose to develop it yourself, or use it as a power base. Then taxes arise, and part of them needs to be paid. You can also form your own army and other armed forces, refuse the entry of federal troops, etc. Another one is what Liaoan is going to do. For example, Ime Nebula was originally owned by the Universe Technology Group. However, he applied for it as his own private territory. Then, all the expenses of the federal troops in the Ime Nebula, as well as the maintenance and construction of all public facilities in the Ime Nebula, all have to be paid out of their own pockets. Universe Technology Group will not bear any burden. In addition, your tax will not be reduced, but the proportion will actually increase. And citizens within the Ime Nebula are also not allowed to suffer intentional heavy casualties. Once it occurs, investigate the cause. If it was you who caused it, then I'm sorry, you will be severely punished. In addition, Ime Nebula still belongs to the Universe Technology Group. If you do something wrong, Ime Nebula may be taken back at any time. Of course, generally, unless you commit something very big, like being a human traitor or something like that. Otherwise, under normal circumstances, your territory will not be taken back. This is actually the case with the Earth Federation. The Earth Federation, except that the solar system completely belongs to the Earth Federation. Territory outside the solar system, the Earth Alliance is the third type of private territory. But the third type of private territory, although there are restrictions, there are also many disadvantages. Especially if you don't get any support from the Universe Technology Group, how you develop is entirely up to you. It even developed very poorly, resulting in the citizens of Ime Nebula not having enough to eat, clothing, or warmth, and their safety not being guaranteed. Citizens can also submit an application to take back your territory directly. Although there are some disadvantages. But there is one thing that is the greatest benefit. That is, after it becomes your private territory, you alone have the final say in all personnel appointments and dismissals in Ime Nebula. Moreover, the Universe Technology Group will still have branches here. However, the person in charge does not have any authority to participate in management. There is also the appointment and dismissal of the Lord of the Sector and the Lord of the Galaxy. The appointment and dismissal of the Federal Army, the Commander of the Army, etc. It's all up to you. The degree of freedom is very, very large. Zian. That's what you want. Economic development. Zian was not very worried. In fact, Ime Nebula has huge economic development potential precisely because it is poor and backward. Especially since there are 8 battlefields here. There may not be precious minerals or natural treasures, but the 8 battlefields are the biggest advantage. The Ime Nebula has never been able to develop because of those moths. Just get rid of all those borers. Then maintain security. Then, Ime Nebula's economy will definitely develop. Therefore, the increased taxes will not be supported by the Universe Technology Group. Zian is not worried either. Zian's application. It was quickly passed. After all, Zian's identity is here. It can't be a spy or a human traitor. Therefore, no review is required, and it is passed in less than a second. At the same time, the intelligent optical brain also presents a series of conditions. Among these conditions, the degree of freedom is indeed opened up a lot. Personnel appointments and removals, military construction, etc. are all done independently. But starting from today, Universe Technology Group will no longer be responsible for all expenses. Then taxes. It has also been changed from the original proportions. Ime Nebula received 3% of the overall tax. 30% belongs to the star field, galaxy, and sea of stars where it is located. It's up to them to divide it themselves. The remaining 40%. It belongs to the Universe Technology Group. Yes, only 30% tax. Do you think this 30% is more than before? Actually not. Because this 30% includes all the personnel expenses and equipment expenses of the entire Ime Nebula. Before this, Zian alone received 20%. Of course, Zian can also take all the 30% of the tax attributable to Ime Nebula as his own, or even allocate only a small part. But actually, really want to do that. Ime Nebula's authority will definitely collapse. You definitely can't do that. This is why almost 99.99% of people will not choose to turn a certain territory into their own private territory. Because, in most cases, you have to pay for it yourself. The first time Zian converted Ime Nebula into a private domain. The entire Ime Nebula, from the management to ordinary citizens, have received this notice from the Universe Technology Group. In addition to being surprised, the citizens were happy and worried at the same time. Happy. It was Su Tianjiao who became their nebula master. They became Su Tianjiao's people. This damn old man can show off, right? Worry. After it became a private property and there was no longer any smear from above. The Ime Nebula, which is already difficult, will most likely become even more difficult. This makes them very worried. But no matter how worried, there is nothing they can do. They are just ordinary people. A decision made by a big shot like Su Tianjiao. It's not something ordinary people like them can veto. Perhaps. This is also the greatest tragedy in this cosmic star era where the law of the jungle has been developed to the extreme. Living conditions have improved, life expectancy has increased, and there are more possibilities. Equal. A lot will be lost as well. Zian has always done things vigorously and resolutely. What's more, he doesn't have that much time to spend on the management of the territory. You have to cut through the mess with a sharp knife. Solve the problems of interstellar pirates and personnel arrangements. Plan the entire Ime Nebula economy, then you have to do your own thing. Immediately. Then Huang Wei, as well as the remaining masters of the star regions and the masters of more than 1,000 galaxies, were all summoned for a meeting. This meeting will determine many things in the future. And before going, Zian looked at the communication. After seeing the information above, I smiled slightly. I sent a message back and there was no further delay. He took the girls and went to the conference room. When Zian came to the conference room, then I saw more than 1,000 people inside, all standing up and looking at Zian in awe and fear. Obviously, the fire that Zian just came to light today. It can be said that they deeply felt its burning degree. Next, I still don't know what Zian is going to do. This is especially true after Zian applied for Ime Nebula to become his own private domain. Everyone felt uneasy. After Zian came in, he glanced at the entire audience without any nonsense, and said calmly, "You are all great. I've never seen anyone as useless as you. Such a huge nebula has actually developed into this horrible shape. The leaders are even bandit leaders. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. You guys have opened my eyes. Faced with Zian's sneer words, everyone lowered their heads, not daring to look at Zian. If it were before, they might have said with confidence that this was due to the environment and geography of the Ime Nebula. But when this incident happened to Xia Chuan and Sun Qingping, they were shocked. There is absolutely no confidence to say such a thing. Even Huang Wei, a reckless man, turned red with anger. Don't dare to say anything. I won't talk nonsense. Now, since I will turn Ime Nebula into my private territory, then just listen to what I say next and the rules I set. The rules I set. Whoever dares to commit a crime, believe me, you don't want to see the consequences of that. 7. Zian's voice was very calm. But everyone couldn't help but tremble. No one dared to refute the slightest. Zian glanced across the audience and said calmly, first, my order is the highest order here. No one can disobey. If you cannot accept this, resign now and leave on your own. The owner of private property. There are many things you can do in your own territory. ERA. Found a country. This is also allowed. Actually, in this day and age, the country is just a name for a power. There is no difference from those groups and families. Therefore, there is absolutely no problem for Zian to establish a one-spoken organization in his own territory, if not acceptable. There are 3 options. Or, be obedient. Or, resign yourself. Or, you can also apply for the territory area under your control to be private territory. Only, not everyone can apply for private land. First of all, you must have a clean background and need to go through a lot of verification. Secondly, you must make enough contributions to the Universal Federation of Humanity. Tell the truth. Just this group of people. What contribution are they expected to make? Obviously not. As for Zian's contribution, there's no need to say it, easily. Coupled with the huge price that needs to be paid after applying for private territory, there are really not many people who can do it. At least, just this group of people in front of me. There is definitely no one who dares to apply, and no one can apply successfully. Everyone looked at me, and I looked at you, but no one spoke. Their faces were very troubled, and Zian didn't say anything more. How to choose? It's entirely up to them. Although it is indeed difficult to fully accept one's own orders, I want them to give up their position as the Lord of the Galaxy and the Lord of the Sector. Not everyone can let it go. Not everyone can serve as Lord of the Galaxy or Sector. To achieve this position, they have gone through many difficulties, especially for people like them with mediocre qualifications. The income is much higher than other ordinary strong people of the same level. Zian ignored them and continued, second. Serve in my territory. Absolutely, absolutely, no dereliction of duty or violation of the law will be allowed to occur. If you are discovered, you will never be lenient. These are the 2 rules. If you can accept it, stay. This is unacceptable, leave now. Zian finished speaking in one breath. Then he waited quietly. Then, as expected, a few people struggled for a long time, and finally gritted their teeth and chose to leave. These people. I'm afraid it's the kind of person who has a ghost in his heart. I am deeply afraid that Zian will be found out later, so it is better to set a standard now. Zian didn't care about them. As long as they leave on their own, Zian won't bother to investigate anything they have done in the past, as long as it is not a serious matter that is harmful to nature. As for staff vacancies, he wasn't worried at all, because he already had the means to deal with it. Seeing that no one was leaving anymore, Zian nodded and said, it seems that you can all accept these 2 rules. Since you can accept it, let me tell you something. Although you must obey all my orders absolutely, but in the future you will also be happy for the choice you made today. Next, let's redistribute personnel. Su Zian looked directly at Huang Wei and said calmly, "You don't want to be the commander of the Second Army anymore. Give up your position. Starting today, I will be the deputy commander of the Second Army. Is there any problem?" Huang Wei looked bitter, but he did not dare to refute and nodded to express his understanding. In fact, his results were not too bad. Although he is not the commander of the army, he is the deputy commander. Not too bad. After, Su Zian made some personnel adjustments. But the positions of the vast majority of people are still retained and their positions are not touched. Then, and said again, one last thing. Starting today, we at Ime Nebula will implement a terminal elimination system. Conducted once every 6 months. As long as the public security in the jurisdiction is the worst, the economy has not improved, and the citizens in the jurisdiction are not living well. The last 10 people will be given a warning. If we look at it in the next 6 months, it will still be at the bottom. Then I'm sorry, just hand over your position and let someone more capable take it. Okay, that's all I have to say. That's it, it will. Su Zian finished. Without stopping, he turned around and left here. As for what these people think and do, Su Zian doesn't want to worry about it now. After that, he will set a series of development plans and directions. Then whether they can develop it depends on themselves. If the ability is not enough, then replace it. The Sector Master is just a Star Destroyer captain. The Lord of the Galaxy is only the captain of the deep space ship. Not hard to find. This meeting started in a hurry and ended in a hurry. After leaving the conference room, Su Zian walked straight towards his office. Wait until he comes to the office. Suddenly, he saw some familiar figures sitting with his ministers. Su Zian. Little junior brother. Haha, here we come. The familiar voices made a smile appear on Su Zian's face involuntarily. Enter the purpose. They are familiar faces. Gu Qingzhan, Zhan Wushuang, Lu Yuyu. Several vice-chancellors. Ren Qingying. There are even many students from China universities and training camps, as well as Lu Tianming. So much so. And Song Yu, president of the Galaxy Evolutionists Association. Yes. Here they come. Arriving here right after Su Zian. Even some people. He also arrived here first. The purpose is simple. Just follow Su Zian. Su Zian is now the Lord of Nebula. Once you have your own territory, follow him around. Of course there is no problem. You don't really think that they followed Su Zian just to help Su Zian, right? Stop it. Su Zian is an unparalleled genius. An unparalleled talent with a bright future. Only a fool would not follow someone with such a bright future. One day in the future, Su Zian will grow into a member of the Pinnacle Group. Not to mention the endless benefits. Simply speaking, the scenery you can see with Su Zian is completely different. In this life. And Su Zian also welcomed their arrival. The reason is simple. Of course, you can use it with peace of mind and peace of mind. In fact, besides the purpose of motivating these mediocre and incompetent galaxy lords and sector lords, he instituted the last place elimination system for another important reason. It means replacing all the most mediocre and incompetent people and replacing them with our own people. Such as these classmates. Cultivate them slowly and eventually become your right-hand man. When the time comes, wait for them to grow up. After Ime Nebula was completely under his control. Then even if you go out for a long time, there is no need to worry about Ime Nebula at all. Don't worry if you have your own people here. The greetings didn't last long. Su Zian got straight to the point. He first looked at Gu Qingzhan and Lu Yuyu and said with a smile, this time. Looks like I'll have to trouble you too. Principal, this internal affairs matter must be handled by you. Only when you, the principal, are helping to control the situation can I rest assured. Fourth senior sister. Su Zian looked at Lu Yuyu again and said, the commander of the 1st Legion of the Federal Army must be you." Lu Yuyu's big eyes turned into crescent moons. She seemed to be in a particularly good mood after seeing her junior brother so quickly. "No problem, give it to me. I'm good at this. Even if you are a ragtag group of people, I will definitely train you properly." Zian smiled and nodded. Finally, he looked at Ji Liang. "Yes, there is also Ji Liang, the original instructor of the Taiku Galaxy training camp. It was also borrowed by Zian from Master Kaitai." What else could Kaitai say to Zian's request? Even if Zian wants him as a master to become his subordinate, he has to admit it. "Instructor Ji, then, the 2nd Legion will be left to you," Zian said with a smile. Ji Liang grinned, and his smile seemed a little sinister. "This Federal Army of Ime Nebula. I understand. No matter how useless the army is, in my hands, it can become an elite. But, you have to have the money ready. Because, the death rate is probably not low." Zian smiled indifferently. He looked at Zhan Wushuang again. "And Ren Qingying and the others, this time." It can be said that all acquaintances who are willing to come and have time come to Zian. The meaning is clear. Just follow Zian. Including Principal Gu Qingzhan. Including Mentor Zhan Wushuang. Including Senior Sister Lu Yuyu. There is nothing shameful about following Zian. In this world, the strong are respected. In the future, Zian is destined to be a big shot. Even if it is not for himself, it is for his descendants to have a better start. Wouldn't it be wonderful? Not to mention, it was Zian who invited them here. Zian needed their help. In fact, they also understood what accepting Su Lian's invitation meant. Zian's invitation, to put it bluntly. If you agree to the invitation, then from now on, you will be his Zian. The kind of relationship where both are prosperous and both suffer losses. These people in front of me. Just part of it. There were also some people who had things to do and did not come over. But the future will definitely come. Gu Qingzhan. Mature and prudent. And he is the captain of the immortal ship. He is also the best among the immortal ship captains. His strength is no worse than that of Lu Yuyu. And has rich management experience. It is most appropriate for him to serve as the internal affairs manager of Ime Nebula. And Zian is reassured. Mentor Zhan Wushuang rebuilt a school here. But it is no longer a Chinese university. 2. Brilliant school. Yes. A school named after Zian's starship and Zian's current title. Zian's final plan for the future. It is to build the brilliant school into the most awesome school. After that, they even plan to invite Master Kaitai to come over and move his Taiku Galaxy training camp to the Brilliant Academy to become a part of it. Zian, of course, is the principal of the Bright University, and his dream of being a principal has been fulfilled, but as the principal, he definitely doesn't care. Zhan Wushuang and Li Taoxing are the 2 vice principals. They are specifically responsible for the construction and improvement of the Brilliant Academy. The school's teaching staff is made up of some students from the training camp and students from the Chinese Academy of Sciences. For example, Tu Jiu and Yu Xiao were among the 3 geniuses along with Hu Qiqi. The rest are like Lu Tianming, the lone wolf team from Shenzhou Academy, and the remaining classmates. Most of them joined the Federal Army, and a small number joined the Internal Affairs Office, and together with Gu Qingzhan took over the government affairs of the entire Ime Nebula. As for Ren Qingying, Zian invited her over. It was very simple. Invite her to come to Ime Nebula to serve as Minister of Economic Affairs, specially responsible for the economic development in Ime Nebula. If we say that business and economics also have the title of peerless genius, then Ren Qingying is definitely a peerless genius in the field of business and economics. At this point, since she took over Huawei Group, she has led it to prosperity. He also defied all opinions and decided to recruit himself to participate in the research and development and manufacturing of starships through some details. which is enough to show how outstanding his economic acumen is. And in fact, it is precisely because of this decision Ren Qingying has brought too many changes to Huawei Group. Not to mention income and fame. Nowadays, the reputation of Huawei Group is quite famous in the entire Jiuxiao Xinghai. The products under his name, especially the two starships Venus and Beidou Star, are now selling very hotly. The most important is, I boarded Su Zian's ship when Su Zian was not that powerful. No. Now he was directly invited by Su Zian. Well, she was invited over. The headquarters of Huawei Group has also been directly moved to Imei Nebula. Be the first group company to support the economic development of Imei Nebula. The total investment exceeds 10 trillion universe coins. The support for Su Zian is huge. As she serves as the Minister of Commerce and Economy of Imei Nebula, Su Zian believes that she will be able to rejuvenate Imei Nebula's economy through her abilities. Then there is Song Yu. Song Yu. The evolutionist talent is very good. I was attacked when I was with Xia Donglu, and then I met Su Zian by chance. When I met Su Zian for the first time, I sent a friendly olive exhibition towards Su Zian. Now, Su Zian directly invited him over to serve as the official evolver of Imei Nebula. The so-called official evolutionist of Imei Nebula. This means that they will be the evolvers who will specialize in evolving starships for the officials of Imei Nebula and the coalition forces of Imei Nebula. After receiving Su Zian's invitation, Song Yu didn't hesitate. He immediately resigned from the position of Vice President of the Earth Federation Evolutionary Association that he had just taken over, and joined him without even thinking about it. Not only did he come here himself, he also brought several of his apprentices, such as Qin Shanchuan. Qin Shanchuan naturally resigned from his position as president of the stellar system of the Evolutionary Association and joined him. Served as the official evolutionist of Imei Nebula. Of course, although he resigned from his position in the Evolutionist Association, he is still a member of the Evolutionist Association. It's just that he no longer holds any position. And with them joining. In addition, there is Lu Yuyu. Tell the truth. The evolution of the Imei Nebula. No need to worry anymore. Because there is only one Song Yu, who was lucky enough to become a master not long ago. Not to mention the entire Imei Nebula. They are among the best evolutionists in the entire Feiyu star territory. Plus Lu Yuyu, a 6th grade evolutionist. Let's put it that way. The evolutionists of Imei Nebula are the top ones in the Feiyu star region. It's the power of an evolutionist at the star field level. Other nebulae are not qualified to compare with the Imei Nebula. Please give me flowers. Even if it is a star cluster, I can only secretly envy it. Only the star territory can possess this level of evolutionist power. Not to mention, and Su Zian, a peerless evolutionist, exists. The evolution of the Federation Army's standard starship in the Imei Nebula is no longer a problem. Except these people. After that, besides a lot more arrangements were made. A lot of people. Although it is the first time to serve as the Lord of Nebula. But Su Zian arranged everything in order. A complete, nascent force with him as the first corps began to set sail. Finish arranging them. Su Zian was relieved. Tell the truth. Without these people to help, he really didn't know when he would be able to take care of Imei Nebula. Don't even know how much time will be wasted. Although he certainly couldn't walk away at the moment. At least at this stage. 0. He finally had a little time to evolve all the starships of the brilliant fleet to the 2nd order star destroyer level. Wait until the starship evolves. What to do next? It is to comprehensively clean up the cancer in the entire Imei Nebula. Let the public security of Imei Nebula be restored to the point where roads are cleared. Others can't do it. But Su Zian can definitely do it. Others cannot do it because those interstellar pirates are too evasive and cannot be found, and cannot be completely eliminated. But this matter is nothing to Su Zian. Just right. Take advantage of this period of starship evolution. I believe in Gu Qingzhan, Ji Liang, Lu Yuyu, and others. All-round military and political takeover has been completed. By the time it's time to launch the cleanup plan. And all this, Jiang Yaoyao had to be warned. Let her during this time dig out as much of the remaining rat droppings as possible. In addition, try to get as much information as possible about those interstellar pirates and even human traders. With this information, these interstellar pirates and human traders, it's the fish on the chopping board. Carve it out at will. Adieu. Su Zian found a large-scale evolution factory directly on Yezhou star. The evolution of the brilliant fleet starship has begun. Such a small evolution. For Su Zian, it is already very relaxed. There is no difficulty at all. Even taking advantage of this time, we can even design a standard starship specifically for the Federation Army. Yes. Own army. Then you have to drive a starship designed by yourself. Only if it is the most powerful army. And the army under his command. Su Zian is also very fond of it. Because the army is in the future. It will also become one of my biggest helpers and trump cards. This point, no doubt about it, Federal Army. Su Zian takes it very seriously. Or, one of the main factors why he decided to become the Lord of Nebula was the Federal Army. Of course, the premise is that the Federal Army is strong enough. At least the current Federal Army cannot meet Su Zian's requirements. According to common sense, Nebula-level Federal Army, the minimum requirement to join is a cruiser captain. For example, the elite troops of the Earth Federation. The Federal Army is also divided into main services and auxiliary services. For the Nebula Legion, the main military branch, the minimum standard is a cruiser captain, mainly responsible for the defense of the entire nebula. The auxiliary military branch is the Federal Army at the level of various star systems, large galaxies, and star regions. Of course, for the galaxy masters of large galaxies, their Galaxy Federal Army is also the main house tax. For the Nebula Legion, all those below are auxiliary services. The auxiliary military services in the nebula are formed by each of the star regions and galaxies under its jurisdiction. Except for those on private property, 260. In addition, the Lord of Nebula has absolute power of appointment and dismissal of the commanders of his auxiliary services. But generally I don't care about it. Normally the main branch of the Nebula Legion, the minimum standard is a cruiser captain. But among the two armies of Ime Nebula, Su Zian even saw the existence of assault ships. Even if it is a destroyer, Su Andu cannot accept it in front of him. Assault ship level Nebula class Legion? This is really outrageous. This shows how bad the coalition forces of Ime Nebula really are. Shake his head. Let's put aside the issue of the Federal Army for now. Everything. We'll wait until Lu Yuyu and Ji Liang take complete control of the Federal Army. The dazzling fleet began to evolve. And there is news that Su Zian came to Ime Nebula and became the master of the nebula here. Spread throughout the universe at the fastest speed. Who has attracted the most attention in recent years? Then Su Zian is definitely the first, even if it's the human race's Demon King who ranks second on the prodigy list. Its level of attention is far from impressive. As soon as the news came out, it attracted the attention of countless people. There is no doubt that most people do not know where this Ime Nebula is and have never heard of it. The universe is really too vast. But because of Su Zian, Ime Nebula was immediately on the top of the most searched list. After learning about the Ime Nebula, countless people expressed great incomprehension. Even those fans of Su Zian who have some extreme ideas are shouting angrily, is it possible that someone from the Universe Technology Group has tricked Su Zian into wearing small shoes and made him, one of the most talented geniuses, run away like that? What kind of place is the Lord of the Nebula? Moreover, this speculation has become more and more intense, and countless people have signed reports, allowing the Universe Technology Group to investigate. without any choice. Universe Technology Group can only make it clear that all this is done voluntarily by Zian. In order to convince these angry citizens, the Universe Technology Group directly took out the confirmation options of Zian's application to become the master of Ime Nebula and the intelligent optical brain. It was confirmed that all this was Zian's own wish. Seeing this, those angry fans lost their temper. But a bigger doubt appeared in my mind. I really didn't understand the reason for Zian's choice. Even if you say that the Ime Nebula has any precious minerals or rare treasures, you can understand it. But this place is very barren and more remote than that. This is confusing if it is true. At the same time, after learning about Zian's current location, the Inhumans and insects immediately began to get ready to take action. They are all planning their second attack on Zian. And the kind that doesn't matter at all costs. Zian's threat is really too great. The ability to travel between good and reverse universes and accurately bring back the lost ancestors of the human race makes the Inhumans and insects most fearful. However, this time planning must be done carefully and carefully again. In case it fails again, there will be almost no possibility of a third attack. Consequences of failure. Referring to the original main group of the Inhumans, we can see that now even the servant group is the lowest group. There was a storm outside because of Zian. Zian himself was completely trapped in his own world. Every day, they are all evolved starships. In my spare time, it's about designing a starship. Zian. It is planned to design Ime Nebula's standard starship at once during this period. Because there are successful cases of Daystar and Big Dipper in the past. Therefore, this design. It doesn't take much effort. Standard starship. It is different from the starships on the market. The starships on the market need to be gorgeous, performant, and high-end. A standard starship like the one used by the Federation military has only one requirement. Performance. Performance. Still performance. Appearance doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter if the materials are high-end or not. What we pay attention to is thick leather, durable, outstanding performance, and affordable price. Use whatever material is cheap. This makes repairs easier too. This time. Same as the Morning Star and the Big Dipper. Zian also designed two types of standard starships. A limit length, width and height. A regular length, width and height. Even the names are chosen. Shining Star. Shining Star. The one with the maximum length, width and height is called Bright Star. The one with regular length, width and height is called Shining Star. From this name, we can see the importance Zian attaches to these two starships and his expectations for the Federal Army under his command. A limit, a routine. Corresponding to officers and soldiers respectively. Officers assigned shining stars. Soldiers assigned shining stars. Of course, government personnel will also be assigned to this type of starship. Manager, shining star. Ordinary government officials are naturally shining stars. Now the only difficulty. It is how to improve the quality, change the appearance, length, width and height based on the current standard starship of the Federation Army. Meet the design standards. And we have to design different levels. You don't think that Zian is completely designing a reconnaissance ship, right? That must be impossible. When we first started designing the starship, we wanted all members of the coalition forces to change their uniforms. Only all starships owned by the Federation Army were abolished. Then bind it twice, and then spend a lot of evolution points to evolve. Isn't that just nonsense? Not to mention the shortcomings of secondary binding, not everyone can handle it. It is impossible to do that with just a massive evolution value. Good thing, although the main branch of the federal military in Ime Nebula is worse. But the standard starships are still very unified. There was no uneven situation. In this way, the starships designed by Zian based on this foundation can completely evolve in a unified manner. Although difficult. But there is nothing we can do. 3.2 is more difficult now, but it will be much easier to design than in the future when the Federal Army will be stronger and have more levels. Think no more. Zian started designing standard starships from the Shining Star and Shining Star of the cruiser level. Say its design. In fact, it is more appropriate to say evolution. Evolve into the performance, cost, and appearance of a shining star and a shining star. Start with cruisers and work your way up to star destroyers. As for what's underneath the cruiser, forget it. Zian has already informed. Under the cruiser. In 1 month, if there is no breakthrough to the cruiser level, all were cleared from the Federal Army. Zian's Federal Army. The most valuable thing is essence. Busy life. And so it began. And time also passed quickly. In a blink of an eye. Just 1 month passed. This month. The originally lifeless Ime Nebula. Big changes are happening. In the mansion of the Lord of Ime Nebula. Zian listened to the report. Lu Yuyu said, at present. According to your order, 970,000 Japanese soldiers were purged from the Federal Army. These people either have bad records. Either it is related to interstellar pirates. Or else. It just doesn't have the strength to break through to the cruiser. Just such a message. Zian was speechless. A legion of 1 million men. There are only 2 million people in the 2 legions. That's almost half the people gone. To know, Ime Nebula itself belongs to the type with a small number of legions. A normal nebula-level federal military branch. There are 5 million people. Some powerful nebulae even have tens or hundreds of millions of federal troops. It mainly depends on its importance and the financial resources of its nebula. And the idea of nebula's eye. Now. There are only more than 1 million federal troops left. I want to guard a nebula. Not enough to watch at all. The area of the Ime Nebula is no smaller than that of other nebulae. A total of 1,883 large galaxies. Can you imagine how big 1883 galaxies are? A mere 1 million federal troops can't even make a splash. Even if there are those federal troops at the sector level, 11 galaxy level, and star level. But those federal troops were even more of a mob. Not worth much use. The invasion of Inhumans and insects really happened. It also depends on the main military branch. Think of this. Zian immediately made up his mind. Continue to increase investment in the Federal Army. Only a safe environment. Only then can the normal development of the economy be guaranteed, otherwise a prosperous economy is like a bubble. It can break at any time. As Lu Yuyu continued to report, Zian shook his head while listening. The remaining federal troops. The level is enough. But the fighting ability. It's true that it stretches the crotch a bit too much. Let's just say, these federal troops are compared with federal troops in other places. It's like the difference between a militia and a regular army. This place is so outrageous. But the only good thing is that Lu Yuyu and Ji Liang completely took control of the Federal Army. 1 month down. After the two of them used various methods of kindness and thunder. My fighting ability was strained, but I was finally able to obey. After listening to the Federal Army's report, Zian nodded and said, then let's officially recruit foreign troops. As for the difference in strength, that's fine. After that, there will be plenty of opportunities for them to practice. I just have one request. Don't be afraid of their casualties, I can afford the pension. Don't be afraid that there will be too many casualties and there will be no one left. I would rather have 100,000 elites than millions of rubbish. If you refine it hard for me, isn't it scrap metal? Then use countless blood and fire to forge it into fine steel for me. Lu Yuyu and Ji Liang both laughed. Zian, on the other hand, waved his hand and continued, in addition, Qingying. Continue to increase investment in the Federal Army. Don't be afraid of spending. When money is gone, make money. The Federal Army must be strong. Use 80% of last year's tax revenue for me to use for the expansion and strengthening of the Federal Army. The remaining 20% will be used for daily maintenance and other expenses of various public facilities in the nebula. If it's not enough, just tell me and I'll pay for the rest out of my own pocket to see if I can get by. In short, do everything possible to strengthen the Federal Army for me. Ren Qingying immediately nodded to express his understanding. The instructions for the Federal Army have been completed. Gu Qingzhan then said, after this month of rectification. Preliminarily, the situation of the entire Ime Nebula has improved slightly, but it is not particularly optimistic. Even though a large number of people have been eliminated, there are still many mediocre and incompetent people. Laziness, indolence, and poor handling of various types of government affairs often occur. In addition, public security issues must be resolved as soon as possible. The security here is really bad. Not just interstellar pirates, but also ordinary crimes. There were too many sneakings, fights, and so on. Zian said without hesitation, keep kicking people. I really don't believe it. Without these people, is it possible that Ime Nebula still can't find some capable people? If we don't have them, then we will recruit from the private sector. It doesn't matter whether the other party is a biological captain, as long as he has the ability, he can hold a series of positions. The salary is also higher, at least consistent with regular Nebula government staff. With a population of more than 90 million in the entire Ime Nebula, I really don't believe that no one is responsible for it. Ditch. Here it is a unit of quantity. Above billion is trillion. Above zhao are the quantitative units of jing, gai, zi, rang, go, etc. The entire Ime Nebula has a terrifying population of more than 90 million. Looks pretty amazing. But actually, according to the population standards of Ime Nebula, it is actually very small. After all, there are 1,883 large galaxies. Even if we use the Milky Way as the unit of measurement, how many star systems are there in one Milky Way? Hundreds of billions. Even if only 1/10 of the stars are home to humans. That is also an extremely scary number. Gu Qingzhan nodded slightly to express his understanding. After that, I reported some things. Next, it was Ren Qingying's turn to report one by one. Have to say, Ren Qingying. He is truly a super genius in this area. The planning has been done. After reading Ren Qingying's economic development planning ideas for Ime Nebula, Zian could only marvel in his heart. Maybe this kind of wonder, it's a feeling similar to how others marvel at one's own talent. Let's put it that way. Ren Qingying made these plans. It can be said that once successful, it will completely mobilize the economic vitality of the entire Ime Nebula. He even counts his own fame and prestige as an important part of economic development investment. Even the core part. And then build on that. Start developing step by step and quickly. The lower the level, the higher the upper limit. Zian nodded repeatedly, expressing great satisfaction. But the premise of all this. It is to restore the security of the entire Ime Nebula to the state of the regular nebula. That's all. Only when foreign investment dares to come in can the internal economy become active. Otherwise, if merchant ships would be robbed and people killed at any time, who would dare to go out to do business? Safety issues. Time waits not for us. Therefore, when everyone's payback is over. Zian, 850 couldn't wait to kill all those interstellar pirates. Now that you've made your decision, there's no need to hesitate, Zian said in a deep voice. I believe everyone knows how important public security issues are to the future development of our Ime Nebula, right? Now, I command. All members of the Federal Army are dispatched to suppress the bandits. After that, I will send you the target location. At the same time, Principal Gu, please coordinate with the local sectors and systems and mobilize the local federal forces to cooperate. It just so happens that we can take this opportunity to see the strength of those auxiliary services. Anyone who fails to meet the standards will be warned by the Lord of the Sector and the Lord of the Galaxy, and the Federal Army commander will be directly snatched away. Although it is an auxiliary service, it also plays a vital role in the security of the entire nebula. The combat effectiveness must meet the standard. Alright, do not piffle anymore. Everyone, act now. By the way, leave the lower part of due north to me, and you can take the other directions. Zian's order was issued. Everyone took action immediately. And Zian. Then he took the girls of the brilliant fleet and boarded the guest starship, heading towards the lower area due north. Three-dimensional universe. There are too many aspects to own. This time the bandit suppression was not easy either. But just right. You can train troops. You can also get a lot of evolution points. Quickly improve the combat effectiveness of the Federal Army. This is a good thing. Zian served as the first month of Ime Nebula. A huge storm swept across the entire Ime Nebula. Expand immediately. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee. Or checking out my shirts on TeePublic, with a list of interstellar pirates. The more than 1 million federal troops are actually more than enough. Under the precise positioning of extreme tracking, no matter how many interstellar pirates there are, they will be gradually eliminated one by one. After all, no matter how many interstellar pirates there are, they are not united. I even wish they could unite together. In this case, large forces can be dispatched to wipe them all out at once. But that's obviously impossible. What Zian wants to do, it is to provide the location information of these interstellar pirate groups to the Federation Army. Ime Nebula Interstellar Pirate Group. There are more than 100,000 of them. The combined total number exceeds 15 million people. About 5 million of them are mechanical starships. The remaining, 10 million. It is also enough to provide a large amount of evolution value. The targets Zian chose were naturally the top interstellar pirate groups. The highest is the kind led by a Star Destroyer captain. After all, after reaching the level of captain of the immortal ship, will you not become an interstellar pirate? Even those Star Destroyer captains among the interstellar pirates. It all stems from the fact that he has been an interstellar pirate since he was weak, and is a blacklisted member of the Human Universe Federation. He cannot return to normal society at all. Over time, there will be some lucky people who will break through to the Star Destroyer level. But don't expect how powerful these Star Destroyer captains are. Without a powerful evolutionist, it would be impossible to be that powerful. The purpose of this brilliant fleet: just destroy the top pirate group. The remaining pirate groups. Then all of them will be handed over to the Federal Army for training. This departure. Zian can finally take a good look at his private territory. It's beautiful and spectacular. Surrounding the Ime Nebula is an uninhabited sky area. Except for countless meteorites, there is not even a normal planet. And here, it is also a favorite hiding place for interstellar pirates. Zian, do you have a good idea of the location? At this time, Chi-Chi's charming voice came from the communicator. Zian smiled slightly and said, "There are quite a few choices. With all the large galaxies in our Ime Nebula, there are indeed many uninhabited star systems among them. In the end, I selected the 10 best ones, and then found the one I was most satisfied with. The number is TR23YM6506 star system. The reason why I chose this star system is because it is the closest to my home solar system. Maybe it's because my hometown is clean. I prefer the living environment of star systems near the solar system. A yellow dwarf, then 26 planets, and several moons. I have already asked someone. If I want to initially transform this planet, it will probably take up to a year to complete the transformation. There is no need to rush the deep transformation, just take your time. In other words, we can live there in 1 year. All the time. Zian all wants to have a star system that is completely his own. No. In the beginning, Zian wanted to have a planet that was completely his own. Then do whatever you want on it. Nowadays, there are no planets, but star systems, and Zian is the master of the Ime Nebula. Divide as many as you want to make your own home. But it's useless to have so many star systems. One is more than enough. There are 26 planets. Is it possible that they are not enough? Stop it. Listen to Zian say this. The girls also became excited. After many years of fighting with Zian, now, I can finally have a permanent home of my own. Got a home. There is a way home. Zian is actually looking forward to moving in a year later. Now, the largest builder in the Universe Human Federation he contacted, the engineering team of Technology Future Construction Company, has set off. It will arrive in 1 month. After that, Zian's request will be followed. Initial development there. Initial development. Nothing more than being on the planet, Zian requested. Build an ecological maintenance system and a gravity maintenance system. Then connect the unlimited energy provided by the stellar stabilization system to the upper levels of each planet. After that, just follow Zian's request. Plants and animals were transplanted. After all, the ecological maintenance system is completed, and it is useless without life. What? Is it possible to get some cells or something and let them remove the layer on their own? That's naturally impossible. Mountains, rivers, Yangtze River and the sea. Animals, plants and microorganisms. All transplanted from various places. Moreover, these life forms cannot be transplanted casually. Because we want these life forms to form their own ecological environment. For example, if there are herbivores, there must be omnivores and carnivores. Otherwise, there will only be herbivores and omnivores, which will only usher in crazy reproduction and eat all the plants. When the plants are gone, these animals will starve to death. Is it possible to have another transplant in the end? That must be ecologically abnormal. Therefore, all types of animals must be present. Of course, Zian didn't bother to care about these. Just one request. On one of the planets, completely replicate the animal and plant ecosystems of the Earth. It can be regarded as a kind of nostalgia for the fact that I have been a human on Earth in both my life. Chatting. Finally, we came to a deep space area. Here, meteorites are everywhere. Looking from the outside, it's impossible to know. There are actually 10 top pirate groups hidden in this meteorite belt. Zian glanced at it and said directly, I will share the real-time positioning of the target with you. Let's just start sweep mode. There's nothing to say, just sweep it across, and that's it, let's get started. With Zian's order, the two girls, Hu Qiqi and Qin Fuyue, immediately opened up their firepower. A saturated firepower coverage was carried out towards a certain area in the meteorite belt. Didn't care how many people were there. Densely packed artillery shells and missiles instantly enveloped this area. The violent explosion instantly atomized almost everything in this area. A Star Destroyer-class firepower ship. Definitely the most terrifying existence. Because they are not only fierce in firepower, but also powerful. Covered by fire, even if it is the leader of this top pirate group, the Star Destroyer. It didn't even make any waves. It was solved. As easy as squeezing an ant to death. But it was also this round of bombing. Finally, the remaining interstellar pirates hidden inside reacted. In a hurry, like a swarm of bees, they began to flee around. But the girls have been prepared for a long time. I won't let them leave. Started a journey of harvesting happy evolution values for one child after another. Although the evolution value is not much, it is a drop in the bucket for them today. But no matter how small a mosquito is, it is still flesh. The girls ate happily. Zian did not participate. For these evolutionary values, he had no interest at all. Take advantage of this time. He and Ren Qingying were constantly communicating. The design of the bright star and shining star is completed. Moreover, the shining star and the shining star can not only have evolved models. There are also first-generation models. That is, the first-generation model that is directly bound to the reconnaissance ship. The first-generation model requires production and construction. Asking Zian now. Can the production and manufacturing of the first-generation shining star and shining star be left to Huawei? And as a price? All shareholders of Huawei Group stated. Willing to exchange 90% of the shares with Zian. Zian immediately became energetic. There is no need to worry about suppressing bandits. Chatting happily with Ren Qingying. 90% of the shares. Doesn't that mean my own shining number? Will there be a trillion-level breakthrough soon? Should. Perhaps? It's almost too big, Huawei Group. If it was before this, perhaps its market value is far from reaching this level. But after hugging Zian's lap, it was like a rainbow all the way. Let's not talk about the direct benefits and increases in market value that Venus and Beidou Star have brought to Huawei. The bonus brought by Zian's fame alone has benefited Huawei a lot. The reason is simple. Huawei Group. It is the only group company that Zian joined before Universe Technology Group. Naturally, it attracted widespread attention. Especially those fans of Zian. As Zian becomes more and more famous, he has more and more fans. Even those who don't need Starship will still buy other products of Huawei Group because of Zian's reputation, such as optical brain watches and the like. Sales increased significantly. Great increase in income. Plus a morning star and a starfish income brought by the Big Dipper. Let's put it that way. Not long ago, when the headquarters of Huawei Group was moved to Imei Nebula. Moreover, Ren Qingying, CEO of Huawei Group, even served as the Minister of Economic Affairs of Yimixing. The market value has skyrocketed. Anyway, according to Huawei's market value given by the financial field, Zian takes 90% of the shares, plus the original remaining wealth value. It is actually not difficult for the system to reach the trillion level. The only problem. It means whether the system recognizes the value of market capitalization and then converts it into wealth value. But it doesn't matter. Even if you don't admit it, it's okay. The dividends from 90% of the shares will enable Zian to earn so much sooner or later. This is especially true for those born in the 1990s who have both Bright Star and Shining Star produced by Huawei Group. Of course, the Bright Star and the Shining Star. It will be redesigned at that time. The purpose of the redesign is to distinguish the military version from the civilian version. Basically, the redesigned civilian version will not have any similarities to the military version except for its appearance. The materials used will only be more high-end. ****. Only then can it be sold at the same price as starships such as Future Star and Tomorrow Star. Yes. Zian plans to build the Bright Star and Shining Star into starships of the same quality as the Future Star. Zian doesn't care whether anyone sells the account. It must be created. In fact, if the performance is really outstanding, no one will buy it. At the moment when the girls killed all this group of top interstellar pirates. Zian. We have also thoroughly negotiated with Ren Qingying. Zian will obtain a total of 90% of the shares of Huawei Group. Automatically promoted to honorary chairman. The reason why he is the honorary chairman. It's because Zian doesn't have so much time to be the chairman of a group. Ren Qingying will be the executive chairman. The remaining 10% of the shares. Ren Qingying occupies the majority of 5%. The last 5% will be divided by the remaining shareholders of Huawei Group themselves. Although it appears that their shares have been diluted. But in fact, on the contrary, the value is higher. As long as you follow Zian, the value of your shares will only get higher and higher. Wait until the future. Even if it is just a few tenths of a share. It's just an annual dividend of a few tenths of a share. Perhaps it is enough for them and their descendants to have a worry-free life. This point, there is no doubt about it. Negotiable. Zian sent the detailed data of the military versions of Bright Star and Shining Star for production. Civilian version. When Zian has time later, he will redesign it. Very simple. All done. Taking the girls with him, he continued to set out to suppress the bandits. In the next month, after Zian and the girls wiped out the last top pirate group, there was no more going on. The remaining pirate groups, the Federal Army is sufficient to deal with the problem. It's just a matter of how long it takes, and the results of the bandit suppression operation over the past month have been extremely significant. Don't look at the fact that less than 1% of the interstellar pirates were wiped out. 18. All the interstellar pirates in the Ime Nebula know. Zian, this is serious. And the most frightening thing is that these federal troops don't know how they can accurately locate their positions. They can't even escape. In this situation, half a month after the anti-bandit operation was carried out, countless interstellar pirates began to flee. He didn't even dare to hide within the Ime Nebula. Because as long as they are in the Ime Nebula, they can be found and destroyed in just 1 month. The security environment of the entire Ime Nebula has undergone earth-shaking changes. Let's use the simplest metaphor. In the past, within the territory of Ime Nebula, at least thousands of robberies occur every day. Sometimes they are even so rampant that they directly attack star systems. However, *0+, the last week of the month, for a week, not even a single interstellar pirate robbery occurred. Even private fighting among people within the territory also occurs very rarely, because whenever there are situations where people fight privately or even kill people, it will be investigated immediately. Then put him on a nationwide wanted list, BBBD. Moreover, there is absolutely no possibility of escape. Thus, the security environment has changed even more dramatically. $0. The entire Ime Nebula is extremely safe. The ordinary citizens in Ime Nebula all cheered and shouted Zian's name. Ren Qingying also take this opportunity, started to implement her economic development plan. First, it's time to attract investment. In the name of Zian, invite various group companies to build branches and factories in Xinjiang. And the group companies that received the invitation, most are quite happy. First, in order to attract these group companies to come, Ren Qingying directly made a promise. Any fleet that comes to Ime Nebula for business, if you are attacked by interstellar pirates and cause losses to people and goods, Ime Nebula pays 10 times the compensation. That alone. This satisfied many group companies. These group companies in the universe are actually the most difficult. It's just a businessman. The fleet was attacked repeatedly. Sometimes the losses can be huge. But now, with this guarantee from Ime Nebula, at least there is no need to worry about losses in this area. But that's not enough to attract them. What really draws them here were the rest of the policies after that. For example, because of the backward economy, Ime Nebula has more development opportunities and more opportunities to make big money. And precisely because of the backward economy here, the cost of hiring personnel is also quite low. But the most important thing, it is also the most exciting thing for these group companies. Still a little. Ime Nebula. It will cooperate with 8 major battlefields in the country. The Ime Nebula Federation Army will take the initiative to enter the battlefield to kill the enemy. A large number of starship parts, materials, resources, etc., were seized. These group companies can be sold and sold. This is the main reason why these group companies decided to open branches and factories in Ime without hesitation. To know something on the battlefield. Especially things from other ethnic groups. Under normal circumstances, they can be sold at a very high price. Because there are many resources and materials that the Universal Human Federation does not have. It is unique to other ethnic groups. There are also starship parts from other ethnic groups. In fact, it is also a hot seller in the Human Federation of the universe. It can be sold at a very high price. What gives these group companies a headache is it is actually difficult for them to acquire these things. The reason is simple. On the battlefield, people are more willing to sell things to the Universal Human Federation in exchange for military merit. Compared with money, military merit is undoubtedly more important. Unless you increase the price a lot, it will be difficult to acquire the materials and resources you want. Especially private lords like Zian. Most of them will either use the things obtained by their troops for their own use, or sell them to the Federation in exchange for a large amount of military merit. Like Zian, if you don't need military merit and sell it directly to them, it's really too little. As long as you can buy it, the profits are too objective. Even if the selling price of Zian is a little higher, in the long run, the profit will still be extremely high. Security and safety. Labor is cheap. Profits are extremely high. Coupled with Zian's fame bonus. For a while, numerous group companies and family businesses, large and small, responded one after another. The dispatched personnel rushed towards Ime Nebula. The prosperous scene of Ime Nebula. Believe. It won't be long before you can see it. And Zian. You will also have more time to do your own things. The overall operation of the Ime Nebula. Gu Qingzhan, who gradually took over and became familiar with it, managed it in an orderly manner. Gu Qingzhan handles matters reported from the star regions and galaxies below with clear rewards and punishments. Ime Nebula is equivalent to the company's board of directors. Sectors and galaxies are equivalent to departments and groups. The board issued the order. Sectors and galaxies to execute. The Ime Nebula was originally in decline and disorder. Effective order was quickly established. This effective order means that anyone who violates the order will be directly hit by Ime Nebula immediately. Public security began to gradually stabilize. Even because of the precise strikes of extreme tracking, in just 1 month, the security of Ime Nebula suddenly changed from the last few in the universe and Human Federation to the first few. Because there was no more looting, private fighting was mostly banned. It can be said that public security has ushered in earth-shaking changes. There is order and security. Then people from groups, companies, family businesses, and factories arrived. There are also local groups, companies, enterprises, and factories. Also received support. For example, tax rates such as percentage reductions and exemptions. The emergence of Dahuang Group Company. Naturally, recruitment is required. Don't look at it, it's already the age of the universe and interstellar space. But artificial intelligence never goes out of style. Of course, this so-called artificial intelligence does not mean that humans replace artificial intelligence machines in production. There are many things that artificial intelligence cannot replace, such as product promotion, product design and development, spacecraft driving, transportation, etc. Total 3 months. Zian took over Ime Nebula for 1 month. It took a month to start suppressing bandits. 1 month to attract investment. Suddenly, the decadent Ime Nebula suddenly became prosperous. Even the citizens here have more smiles on their faces. No more worrying about being attacked at any time. Because with a lot of capital investment, a large number of police robots and police drones are on standby in various areas of the planet at all times. Police robots and drones in the interstellar era are all equipped with intelligent optical brains. It will automatically determine crimes, etc. And it is equipped with powerful weapons. It has a great deterrent effect on biological captains. And every planet is now covered with a large number of anti-crime cameras. Almost every corner of the public area is covered. Whenever crimes such as fighting or theft are discovered, robots and drones on standby in various areas will go to suppress them as soon as possible. Security outside the planet, security within the planet. All have received maximum protection. Industry shines on the star, as the core of government affairs for the entire Ime Nebula. An entire planet is used to deal with government affairs and has no citizens living there. At this time, in the Lord of Nebula's mansion, Zian listened to the progress of the development report over the past 3 months and nodded with great satisfaction. Order, security, economy. This is just the big development framework and the basis for everything. In fact, many aspects have been significantly improved. For example, with a wave of his hand, Zian allocated huge sums of money to build corresponding splendid public schools in every star system and even every planet. Bright Public School is different from Bright Academy. Zian Public School covers 3 stages: elementary school, junior high school, and high school. And the fees are quite cheap, and even the fees can only cover the daily maintenance costs of the school, without making a penny at all. Zian doesn't expect to make money from this either, although it is a public school, but as a reserve of talents for his future subordinates. Its faculty, teaching level, and the standards set by Zian are quite high. Enrollment is open to all citizens. Now, 3 months passed. Not only is the school built, he has recruited many highly qualified teachers, and classes have already started. In the interstellar age of the universe, there are no shortage of poor people at all. Perhaps the only difference between the poor in this era and the poor on Earth in ancient times is: won't go hungry, will not get sick. Because you really have no money to eat, I bought it to support you. Because you are sick, the federal government will treat you. This is a basic benefit. Of course, if you want to eat well and receive high-end medical treatment, it is also obviously impossible. Besides, a lot of construction is also going on. After listening to this, Zian immediately felt relieved. Fortunately, he invited Guqingzhan and the others to help. Otherwise, just rely on yourself and want to reach this situation in 3 months. Not to mention 3 months, 3 years is unlikely. And in just 3 months, the entire Ime Nebula was truly on the right track. Zian also stayed here for 3 months. It's time to do your own thing. As for his own affairs, it is very simple. Just continue to the battlefield and the anti-universe. Go to the battlefield. It's for evolutionary value. Go to anti-universe. It's for cultivation and finding our ancestors. After all, no matter how fast the anti-universe cultivation is, it is useless without evolution value. On the battlefield, no matter how much evolution value you have, if you can't keep up with your cultivation speed, your head will hurt. So, a combination of battlefield and anti-universe. Only by breaking through the shackles of time can Zian and the girls break through the speed faster than a rocket. Then I'll leave this place to you. Early tomorrow morning, we will prepare to go to the battlefield, Zian said to everyone. Guqingzhan and others didn't look surprised. Because of this incident, they already had a mental picture. When Zian called them over, they knew Zian's plan. An unparalleled genius like Zian. Even if you serve as the Lord of Nebula, how can you really spend a lot of time governing it? Please give me flowers. Real big shots don't actually need strong governance capabilities. A great person only needs to be able to manage people. Early the next morning, Zian, who had long been bored out of his mind, finally set off with Zhongnan again after 3 months. And this time it wasn't just him setting out on his own. Set out with him, there are also some federal troops in Ime Nebula. The meaning of carrying them is simple. Just go to the battlefield to kill the enemy. This part of the federal army was temporarily formed into a federal army. The commander of the army was Lu Yuyu and Ji Liang Shoujia, The members of this federal army are all talented, innocent, and of good moral character. We will focus on training in the future. Taking them to the battlefield is purely to kill enemies and become stronger. Capture some loot and the like by the way. And this time, the battlefield Zian is going to is a B-level battlefield. 0, C-level battlefield. Although there are many strong people. But there are not many strong ones, and they will not end easily. In that case, it would be impossible to earn too many evolution points. And because there are not many strong men, the appearance of such a brilliant fleet, even if it is disguised, can be easily seen through. But it's different on the B-level battlefield. The upper limit is higher, and there are more powerful people. And the B-level battlefield serves as a meat grinder of death. It's here. Even if it is a powerful star destroyer or immortal ship. There are also a lot of deaths every day. The appearance of the dazzling fleet will not attract too much attention. If it is disguised, it will basically not be discovered. Because it is within the territory and can make space jumps, therefore, in less than half a day, he arrived at the entrance to the B-level battlefield. Although the large galaxy where this B-level battlefield is located belongs to the Ime Nebula in name, it is not actually under the jurisdiction of Zian. Even this place is not completely within the jurisdiction of the human race in the universe. In this galaxy, there are a large number of inhumans and insects. Here is the battlefield galaxy. The most obvious feature of the battlefield galaxy is that outside the galaxy, there is space turbulence. Once you enter it by mistake, you will definitely fall into the anti-universe. Only within the galaxy is safe, but only a few passages within the galaxy are safe. The three major ethnic groups control these passages and then engage in melee in the galaxy. Once the channel is broken, the enemy will drive straight in. The danger is actually quite great. This is also a sparsely populated part of the border nebula. Because there are really not many people who move here on their own initiative. Instead, local people will keep running away. Ah, it's Zian, the Lord of Nebula. Su Tianjiao. It's Su Tianjiao. Zian just arrived. Voices full of awe sounded one after another, the surrounding eyes were full of awe. The look I used to look at Zian was one of envy and admiration. But now, there is an extra layer of awe. The source of awe is Zian's current identity, born in Xingyun. This is a change brought about by status and power. Which one is more terrifying, an ordinary Star Destroyer captain, or a Star Destroyer captain holding a nebula in his hand, millions of Federation troops, and possibly even millions or tens of millions of Federation troops in the future? This is the reason why countless biological captains want to seek a Lord position. Identity will really be different. Lord. At the entrance, the federal soldiers opened a passage one by one with great respect. Although Zian has only been in charge of this place for 3 months. However, his resolute and ruthless methods still greatly frightened most people in Ime Nebula. But after the ruthless tactics, a series of corrective measures have benefited almost everyone in Ime Nebula. So now I am willing and full of awe and reverence for Zian to lead the 303 Master. Lord. It is a title given to the Lord of all galaxies all the way to the Lord of the Star Sea. But it's not absolute. For example, a certain nebula exists as a group company and manages its territory in a group company manner. Then the owner of this group company is called chairman. If you exist as a family, you are the head of the family. Existing as a country, it means the federal governor, king, emperor, president, and so on. Like Zian, Ime Nebula has the most conventional structure, not the management model of a group company or family. No country was established, and so on. Naturally, what others call him is Lian. Zian nodded at the guarding federal troops without delay. Lead everyone into it. Battlefield. Zian has been there several times. The familiar bloody smell and depressing atmosphere of the B-level battlefield can still make people feel strongly uncomfortable. Even just at the entrance. Look around. You can see up, down, left, right, obliquely above, obliquely below, obliquely behind, all densely packed with fire, caused by the explosion. If you count carefully, there are at least hundreds of places to know. These distances are extremely long. And at such a long distance, the fire can still be seen. It is not difficult to imagine how cruel and massive wars these hundreds of places experienced. Zian had just entered. In the communicator, Senior Lu's voice came over. "Are you here? Do you want to come and sit here with me?" Mr. Lu. He is the guardian of this B-level battlefield. And this B-level battlefield is also the only B-level battlefield in Ime Nebula. It is also the highest level battlefield. As for Senior Feng of the Border Goddess of War, she is in another B-level battlefield. "Don't bother me, I brought the Federal Army here for training. I'll visit you when I'm free next time." Zian declined with a smile. Mr. Lu naturally didn't force himself and nodded. "Okay, you should pay attention to it yourself. You are now number 1 on the must-kill list, and you are definitely a thorn in the side of the Inhumans and the insects. Anyway, it's always good to be careful. But you don't have to worry too much. I will always pay attention to the movements of the enemy's super strong men," Senior Lu said with a smile. Zian thanked him for a while. Soon. Then we came to an official battle zone in this B-level battlefield. The so-called official war zone. It is an officially managed war zone. There will not be any group companies settling here. Most of the battlefields of the Federal Army are also in these official war zones. Although the battlefield exists independently. But after all, it belongs to the territory of Ime Nebula. Therefore, Zian's actual status here is the same as Mr. Lu, and even in name, Mr. Lu is not considered his subordinate. Although only in name. So when Zian came, the person in charge of the official war zone number 7. A void ship captain came over immediately to pay his respects. Void ship captain, meeting a star destroyer captain. It's the difference brought by status. Chatted with the person in charge for a while. The main content of the conversation was to ask him to arrange the Federal Army's combat area issues brought by Zian. Everything is arranged. Lu Yuyu will personally lead the Federal Army to fight in this area. And next, Zian, just do your own thing. The next task. Then earn as many evolution points as possible. Although the evolution value of him and the girls is still very sufficient. Evolvable value. Of course, the more the better. There are many more mission options in B-level battlefields than in C-level battlefields. The rewards are also more generous. Even Zian is very greedy for the rewards from some tasks. That night, Zian took the girls of the dazzling fleet and disappeared into the deep space. No one knows where they went. The other side. The news of Zian's appearance on this B-level battlefield was unknown where the news leaked. Less than a day after Zian and the others arrived on the battlefield, both the Inhumans and the insects received the news. Suddenly, be vigilant, be excited. Only. When the Inhumans and insects were thinking about how to carry out special operations against Zian on the battlefield. But suddenly I received another message. Zian and his brilliant fleet disappeared within a few hours of entering the battlefield. No one knows where they went. This situation. The Inhumans and insects immediately became vigilant. Other war zones are fine. In the war zone where Zian arrived, the Inhumans and insects immediately raised their vigilance to the maximum and carried out strict defense. Zian's deeds, especially those on the sea-level battlefield, are known to everyone. After what happened on the sea-level battlefield, it's not like no one has guessed that Zian may have mastered the identity identification friend or foe camouflage technology. How could Zian do it and appear in a certain area quietly every time? Although intellectually, almost everyone thinks this is absolutely impossible. After all, this technology can be called the most difficult technology in the field of evolutionists. Zian, still too young. But emotionally, I have to believe it. On the sea-level battlefield, the elusiveness of the brilliant fleet brought too much psychological pressure to people. It can't be said that Su Zian's master Xia Donglu personally disguised them every time they took action, right? How is this possible? And besides being vigilant, many people became excited. These excited people are all the geniuses of the Inhumans and insects. And some outlaws. That's number 1 on the must-kill list. If Su Zian can be killed, good guy, that can be said to be a huge profit. It is said, just said, bugs and Inhumans. There are top 100 geniuses who are already on their way to get past 3.9. I just want to get rich rewards after killing Su Zian and become more famous. It can also solve a huge threat to their tribe. It can't be said to be heartwarming. If it weren't for those peerless geniuses in the top 50, top 20, or even top 10, they couldn't leave because of something, or they were too far away. I'm afraid he will come too. Specialized in hunting Su Zian. According to rumors, these two came to hunt Su Zian. They are respectively a peerless member of the Inhuman race who is ranked 99th on the prodigy list. A strong captain of the 10th tier Star Destroyer. The other one is ranked 95th on the list of geniuses, a peerless genius of the insect race. The powerful captain of the 7th level immortal ship. On the Tianjiao list, the further you go down, the wider the gap between each ranking becomes. Only missing 4 places. But there is a big difference in levels between the two. Moreover, this time they also brought their own fleets of geniuses. Vow to kill Su Zian in one fell swoop. At the same time, B-level battlefield, the rear area of the insects in a certain war zone. A small wormhole appeared silently in the meteorite belt in the deep space. One after another, strange-shaped starships appeared here quietly. And wait for these starships to come out. The wormhole that suddenly appeared suddenly disappeared. Wormhole. There is a big difference between natural and artificial. Artificial wormholes will have violent fluctuations. Once made, it will be discovered. But this is not the case with natural wormholes. Purely natural and random, quietly. No doubt. The wormholes generated by the system are natural wormholes. Therefore, even not far away, it is the enemy's rear area. But no one discovered this wormhole at all. It took several minutes until the wormhole disappeared. All the girls are still in a dreamlike state. I still can't believe this fact. Su Zian's voice sounded in the ears of the girls with a chuckle. If I say, this wormhole appeared by itself, do you believe it? Hearing this, all the peasant girls rolled their eyes wildly. Do you think we are fools? Wormhole suddenly appears? Right in their face? And the other end of the wormhole happens to be the rear area of the insects? And after they left, this wormhole disappeared quietly again? Come on, tell me who believes this. Suddenly, Zhongnan also woke up in shock. Then he woke up. At that time, they encountered an ambush attack by the Inhumans. A wormhole happens to appear. Although he was lost in the anti-universe because of this. But he also saved his life. No need to think. This matter. It must have been done by Su Zian, although it is impossible to believe it in my heart. But the girls didn't ask any more questions on this issue. Actually, no matter how many different things Su Zian showed, they would not ask even a single word. If Su Zian wants to say it, he will naturally say it. He doesn't say. There must be a reason why he didn't say it. I don't care about that. It's like Su Zian said at the beginning that he had a channel to buy medicinal materials at super low prices. At first, the girls definitely believed it. But as time passed, their suspicions became more and more serious, until now. They don't believe it at all. Come on, tell me which channel is so awesome? Can one provide natural materials and treasures in large quantities and at such low prices? So, the girls actually knew it very well. These natural treasures were all created by Zian. But as for how it was done, they didn't ask, and they didn't even bother to think about it. Including this time. Shocked again. But after the shock, I was too lazy to think about it. Love so much. Anyway. It has nothing to do with them. They just need to follow Zian, no matter what secret Zian has. Even if Zian said that he was an immortal descended to Earth, they would still believe him. Seeing that the girls didn't ask any more questions, Zian also smiled slightly and didn't dwell on this issue anymore. Instead, he ordered, "Go and investigate. Look at the target location, whether it is here." Zian's instructions. Chu Tianga and Bai Xiaoyuan immediately started executing. About an hour later. Information confirmation. Brilliant fleet. Set off towards a completely uninformed goal. Buggers. CR0232 War Zone, this war zone. It is no different from other war zones of the insect race. In fact, there really isn't anything different here. The reason why Zian chose this place. There is no other reason. I randomly selected this place from among many options. The only thing to blame is that the insectoids living here are out of luck. But that's okay. Because of the follow-up. The rear personnel and other war zones of the insect race will also receive the same treatment as today. It's not just the buggers. And the inhumans. Anyway. Completely destroy their rear area. Let their front lines have no intention of fighting. The rear collapsed again. So as to win this war zone in one fell swoop. This is Zian's combat goals and plans. This is also how he earns evolution points. Going to fight on the frontal battlefield? Just kidding. Zian doesn't do such low-level things. Today. The buggers in this war zone. Including ordinary people of the insect race. Everyone also knows the news that Zian is here. Everyone is very concerned. But they didn't have the slightest sense of caution about the imminent danger. Don't blame them for that. After all, no one would have thought that Zian was so brave that he could single-handedly lead a fleet to attack their rear area. To know. Nowadays, the superpowers of the inhumans and insects are specifically keeping an eye on Zian. Whenever traces of him are found, they will definitely go there and kill him as soon as possible. Not to mention. So many targets to hit, staring at these ordinary bug humans. That's not necessary, right? So. Not many people were worried at all. Do what you have to do. B. No idea. Danger. Has arrived. It can be said that the endless powerful cannonballs wiped out all the living creatures in the entire star system in less than 10 minutes. Just less than 10 minutes. Even the powerful insectoids on the front line and in the surrounding areas didn't react. All the trillions of people in this star system would be gone. Deadly. Suddenly furious. They all knew it immediately. This must have been done by Zian. This is also true. After investigation, it has been confirmed. Those weird-looking star destroyers. Indeed, it is undoubtedly the brilliant fleet. The insectoids are all furious. The guardians of the insect race immediately arrived as quickly as possible. I want to eliminate Zian on the spot. 2. What surprised him was. The guardian of the human race in the universe did not stop him. He arrived here smoothly. He came quickly. B. When he arrives. The scene was nothing but a mess. There is no trace of the dazzling fleet at all. Found nothing. Is the stealth function of Chui Kan's fleet so powerful? Or will this dazzling fleet teleport? Or rather, the brilliant fleet, after killing the star system, and escaped directly into the anti-universe? With Zian's special ability. It seems that it is not impossible. This is also what he thinks is the most likely possibility. Think of this. This super powerful insectoid has a very ugly expression. If this is the case, This Zian. I'm afraid I really can't catch it. But that's fine. Escape to the anti-universe. That means Zian will not be able to come back in a short time. Even if he has this ability. It's not just him. Everyone thinks so. However, 633, the reality was a big slap in the face for everyone. When everyone thinks Zian killed the star system and escaped directly into the anti-universe. The incident happened less than 20 minutes later. Over there with the Inhumans. Suddenly, a piece of shocking news came. A Star Destroyer-class fleet appears like a ghost. And then also in less than 10 minutes. Killed one of their star systems in the war zone. And when the nearby strong men rush over. Brilliant fleet. It's like teleporting and disappearing. This left everyone in a daze and disbelief. The reason is simple. The location where the brilliant fleet appeared this time. This location is far away from attacking the bugs. Very different. It's absolutely impossible to arrive in 20 minutes. And these 20 minutes not only arrived, also killed its star system. This is outrageous. And what shocked them the most? This is just the beginning. After almost every 20 minutes. Brilliant fleet. It's like a doppelganger. Or like a ghost. Keep appearing in each war zone. Then destroy star systems one after another. In less than 5 hours. The total population of Inhumans and insects who died at the hands of the brilliant fleet exceeded 10 trillion. A terrifying number. It is also a number that makes the Inhumans and insects furious. But there is a bigger question, but it appears in everyone's heart. They just don't understand. How did Zian do this brilliant fleet? Is it possible? Zian really mastered teleportation? Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.